Hey, what's going on everyone? Today we're gonna do a reaction video to Grown Up Asian by Domics. So I'm pretty sure after watching this video, there's probably gonna be a lot of things that I can relate to. So let's get to it.
I'm sorry, Gigi. Alright, hello everyone. This is going to be a different episode. It's not really a hypothetical. We just felt like talking, you know? I'm here in California right now. We're staying at Jam's mom's place. Jamom's place. And it made me remember some things of like what it was like to live at home or growing up Asian, I guess. I'm here today joined by a couple of friends. I'm sure we all have no slippers in the house.
No slippers?
Sorry, no shoes.
No shoes.
No shoes, always slippers.
Yes.
Yeah, do you have that basket of slippers at the front door?
Yep. When people come over, we always offer slippers. There's just an abundance of slippers.
Do you ever have white friends that go to bed with shoes on?
You actually knew people.
Yeah, I have friends do that. First, I was visiting his house and he just laid down on his bed with his shoes.
Why though? It's so dirty.
Gross.
It's like what's the urgency that you need to have your shoes on at all times?
I can totally relate to that about the no shoes thing and going to your white friends' houses and they have their shoes on and they walk everywhere with their shoes. But you think about it, it's pretty gross because when you're using your shoes, you already know you go into the public bathrooms with it. You're walking around in the mud and walking around in grass and all sorts of stuff. And you carry that stuff around. That's just gross.
From an Asian family, we don't really do allowances. I never understood that.
I didn't either.
Like when my friends were like, yeah, I get like $100 a week.
Yeah, I never get allowances
doing what?
either.
You know, for existing. Like, I asked my parents, why don't we get allowance? They didn't know what that meant. I was like, what's an allowance?
I got allowance.
Oh my god. What?
Okay, but the trade-off was I had to do all the chores in the house.
So you're just getting paid.
But my allowance was like $3.
Yeah, that's part of allowance. That's why people get allowance sometimes, is doing chores and cleaning up and things
One of my
like
main
that.
methods of gaining money as a kid was when I picked white hair from my parents' heads.
What?
And then they gave
yeah.
me money for each one I plucked out.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that too. I used, my parents' gray hairs and things like that, and the thing is, I think I read an article one time. It said the more you do it, the worse and quicker it gets. So I've always been kind of paranoid about that.
How much did you get?
It started off like a quarter for a hair, and then went down to like 10 cents and 5 cents, and then went down to just like a penny.
No
and then
way.
They got older,
I think it's exaggerating
hair,
about
and then
that.
they realized, oh, this is not a good model because I'm gonna get bald. So then they just started dyeing their hair, and they don't. Food eating etiquette, yes.
I mean, what you just learned with John's mom, right? Like, if you eat real fast, they'll be like, "Oh, you must really like the food," so they just like dump more food on your plate, and then you're just like sitting there full. Yeah. So the trick is you just eat really slow.
I learned now.
Okay.
Yeah, we usually just have like a bowl of rice or whatever, and we have like all the side dishes in the middle. No one's gonna force you to like get more rice or like get more of this. If you're done, you're done.
Yeah, and Koreans like they will keep feeding you until like they're tired. It's not a question like do you want more? It's like, oh, you want more, and they just give it to
the
you.
do is silent in your sentences.
Just for my family, I don't know about you guys, but every time when I have a friend who invites me for like dinner, like parents are always like, "Oh, you have to bring something nice, bring this wine bottle that we've been like saving
And
up
bring
for
up
like, the
some
past 5
fruit
years."
or dessert
Yeah,
or something like
I
that.
invited you to I think it was the New Year's dinner, and then you brought like the bird's nest.
Yeah,
Bird's
I don't even
nest?
know what it is. Apparently, it's supposed to be really healthy.
The bird spit soup thing.
Yeah, like you gave it to my parents. The instructions were in Chinese. They're like, we don't know how to eat this. I'm like, okay, I'll ask Claire.
Yeah, I've never heard of the bird's nest thing either, so let's Google it.
Yeah, your mom makes a lot of leftovers, and that's like the mindset my family grew up with. Like we always either make too much food because they want to bring it for lunch, like to work the next day. We call it baon. I don't like wasting food. That's why we have a term for when there's like a
In
little
our
bit of
families,
food
we
left
always
and you gotta
overcook
eat it
too.
clean. It's
Make
called
big old
simot.
pots
Kill
or
it.
a lot of it.
Yeah, kill it to the speck.
There's like a Chinese saying like every speck of rice in your bowl is like that's gonna be on your lover's face or something.
Lover's
What?
face? Why?
Or your like husband's or your wife's face. Like it'll like turn into something bad.
So if you don't finish your food, your wife becomes ugly?
I've never heard of that, so I can't relate to that. Have any of you guys ever heard of anything like that about food being on your lover's face?
Really known that Filipinos have like flat-ish noses. So like when every morning, like instead of just saying like wake up, my mom would just walk into my room and just pinch the bridge of my nose. I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. I think most Asians or a lot of Asians have the flatter noses. So my mom would always rub me and my brother's noses to kind of try to contour it more higher, you know?
I was like Captain America, super soldier serum all the time. I had a new liquid, a new pill all the time. Every morning she would like pat my legs down and stretch my legs out, try to make me as long as possible. And I'm the tallest person in my family, so.
And it worked.
Like, did you guys have to take the Chinese medicine stuff? Like, you go to like the old Chinese doctors. They have a bunch of drawers with like deer antlers and bugs. And they're like, and then you go there, you're like, I want my kid to be taller. They're like, all right, I got you. And then they're like, get all this like weird stuff. Make a drink.
A potion?
Yeah, like they'll make a potion. And it tastes disgusting.
Liquid chimera.
Ugh.
Yeah. We call it hanyak.
Yeah, I remember that too, because I was always a smaller kid, so my parents would always take us to some kind of weird Chinese or Asian medicine shop and buy me these weird pellets or drinking potions, and they're all gross. I always either avoided it or I always had a hard time taking those medicines.
I think like Koreans are obsessed with medication that makes you taller.
I guess that's true, because like all the Koreans in my high school in Freedom like were super tall. I was in between two Koreans, Pak and Park. Pak and Park. Yeah, so I was like in between them, and like freaking graduation, it was just like a tall ass Korean and then me and like another tall ass Korean.
A lot of Koreans nowadays are really tall.
Well,
I think it's the kimchi
Where I
that they
grew
eat.
up, pretty much every kid had a tutor every day, and it's like for every subject.
Yeah, I don't think my parents ever thought about giving me and my brothers tutors. I don't think we ever needed it. So I think that's, the kids that get the tutors and things like that, they just get smarter, and is a bigger advantage for them to go to college.
We had like math tests and stuff, right? This is back in China. And I think I got like a 96. And then my mom was visiting from Canada, and the teacher called me out and had a meeting with my mom. And she's like, so this is your daughter's grade. And then my mom looks at it, it's like a 96. And she's like, oh, this is pretty good. And she's like, nah, that's the lowest mark in our class.
That's the lowest.
Oh my god.
Frick.
You get like the.
You see all those 100 pluses? It's too much
extra
extra credit nowadays.
Oh
Yeah, like that's it. And then if you get the check minus, it's like devastating. You're like, oh no, I'm doing bad.
A minus. Let me just edit that into a plus. You guys get hit?
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't
Only in
get
China though. Oh, you're
I didn't get
lucky.
hit. I got hit verbally, and that was like,
I got both.
Yeah, I mean, I think nowadays most kids they usually probably get verbally abused, but I was verbally and physically abused. I remember one time I knew I was gonna get punished, so I took a pillow and hid it in my pants, and she found out about that, and I even got a worse whipping. I'll never forget that one.
There was a point where my friend's mom called me in the middle of like the night. I'll call him Andrew
or Randy.
or Randy. His mom called me in the middle of the night, and she was smart about this. She called me on Andy's cell phone. She took his cell phone and called me. I was like, hey, what's up? And she's just crying. Like she would just tell me stuff like, oh, my son is doing bad in the school because you're the bad friend, and I want to talk to you. And I'm just like, oh my god. Like she's like, promise me you will not talk to my son anymore. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't know what to say. I've never been in this situation where a mom called me and called me a piece of shit and said that I can't hang out with somebody else. Like, Jesus Christ.
Oh my god, I can totally relate to that one. Yeah, I think my mom always had this paranoia about who I hung out with, so she thought most of my friends were either thugs, gangsters, bad influences, or just really not good characters. They can steal from you or just something like that. Just don't trust nobody. So I grew up having a hard time trusting people. But that's a totally, I'm pretty sure there's a few of you guys that can relate to that.
I think for like me, like a lot of my friends, they had a ban on relationships, especially during high school. Their parents were like, you cannot have a boyfriend or girlfriend.
They should have just been like, you can't see your girlfriend unless you get an A. And then you'd be like, okay.
Yeah, that's the better incentive.
Yeah, like.
Yeah, no matter which generation it is, I think most Asian kids, either go through high school and not have a relationship because of the strict parents and the rules that they've given us, or they have relationships but they never ever tell their parents. The American kids, they tell their parents, hey, I'm so interested in this guy or girl, and the parents be like, hey, okay, bring them over to dinner and let me meet them and things like that. But Asian kids, no, we keep everything on the down low. Totally understand.
If you get an A, like, I'll drive you.
I'll pay for your date tonight. Like, I don't know if it was my first or my second girlfriend, but I remember I told my dad, and he's like, oh, you have a girlfriend? How many? And I was just like,
How many?
Sweet.
yeah, they were just like, date as much as you can now, because then you'll learn and you won't make stupid mistakes later when you're an adult.
Yeah, that's good thinking, because honestly, when you're young, you're going to go through a lot of mistakes, and you need to learn and grow mentally, through these mistakes, and you get to mature better by going through these experiences, rather than you avoiding relationships and things like that, because this is what helps you grow in life.
When I grew up, I obviously wasn't the smartest student, and my family was always worried about that. But they kind of got over it. But my grandparents never got over it. And there was this one time where I released an animation. It was Ice Cream 2 back in like 2009 or something, right? And it was the first time I ever got paid for an animation. I got $100 from stickpage.com, and back then that was like $1 million to a kid, right? I was like, holy crap, I can make money doing this?
You can buy some new bones.
I can buy some new bones. But then my grandpa pulled me aside one night, and he's like, hey John, I think it's cool that you like to draw these weird stick people, but I don't want you taking money from the internet because that's blood money.
What? Oh my god, it's so true with the old school Asians, especially like grandmas and grandpas. They live in this bubble, and their thoughts are really constrained to what they grew up with, and they don't know there's these opportunities out there, and they don't understand that you should have hobbies, artistic hobbies, sports hobbies, music hobbies, and things like that. They don't understand that these kind of things helps you grow as a person. It helps you learn.
It's like you have to get a real job. You have to work with your own hands. You have to hard labor. But once my mom saw it, she was like, holy crap, this is what you're doing this whole time? I thought you were just dumb. It's like, go ahead, keep doing this.
What I thought was interesting is like I went to some art schools and stuff. I would always like notice like there's 9 girls for every 1 guy or something. And I remember I talked about it with my mom. She's like, you'll notice that none of the guys are Asian. It's like, why? And then she just straight up told me like, Asians never let their kids become artists, especially if they're male. And then she tells me these stories. So like parents, like they would like break their kids' crayons and stuff. Like if they found their kid drawing, they would immediately crush all their dreams as fast as they could. Yeah, like literally crush all their supplies and like stop them, and then like they give them like math problems to do or something. I don't know.
It's totally true for the most part. I think a lot. I'm talking about like the old school, generation of Asian thinking. They just don't like you to have artistic hobbies and things like that. So they always crush on your dreams if you are one of those people who dream about doing that kind of stuff. It's a really bad way of thinking and growing up. It sucks. But the thing is, if you were truly an artist, you will push for it when you grow up, when you go to college, when you, go out there in the real world. You will push for something artistic, and eventually it will come out. Or you can either end up accepting that life that your parents want for you and go the other route and pretty much suppress all your artistic ambitions or dreams or even as a hobbyist.
Have you guys ever been bullied for being Asian in your school, like racist kids?
Oh, that's totally normal. I mean, unfortunately, if you grew up Asian, then most likely you got bullied, no matter what generation it is.
Nope.
Nope, oh, you freaking
Yeah,
all
like,
Asians.
they're all
school.
Asians.
I think what was the one where it was like Chinese, Japanese,
Look at these.
Yeah.
something knees.
They did that
I don't
to
know.
me, and I'm just like, what?
I'm like, I'm Filipino.
Filipino is your Asian.
Like, walking home from a
You
friend's
just mixed
house.
with
Just
Spanish.
walking by this house, the garage is open, and a bunch of these little like boy white kids in the garage, and then they look at me and they're like, "Go back to the railroad." And I'm like, "What the? I'm not even Chinese." Like I didn't contribute to that. It took me a while to process what they meant, but I knew it was racist.
Hey, if you're Asian, they're gonna put those stereotypes on you. The weird part is like all of us Asians eat rice. All of us use soy sauce and all this other stuff. So they're gonna use those stereotypes against us.
Yeah, I think people made fun of my accent because I used to have a Chinese accent when I first came to Canada.
Yeah, me too.
But like that was about it.
Dude, don't even worry about it. I slipped and I was born here, speaking English all my life.
I don't really practice Tagalog at home. So when I went to the Philippines, instead of speaking Tagalog, I just started speaking English with a Filipino accent. So I try to that's how I try to blend in.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been back to Vietnam, but if I had to go back over there, my accent is really bad, so I wouldn't even know. I could probably survive there, enough, right?
Did you get a Korean name even though you were born here?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's decided by your grandparents usually. Well, if you get really traditional, you go to a fortune teller and they assign you a syllable for the generation of
your
males.
second syllable is
I think there's some people out there who their parents took them to fortune tellers or some kind of person who will give you these astrology or something to tell you about your future or what you're supposed to be good at and things like that. I think I went to one time. I barely remember it though. I barely remember that experience. I don't remember what they said. I just remember going.
Wait, how do you say park in Korean accent?
It's just pack. I don't know
So
why.
it's
they-
another one of variances like pack.
Yeah. Mine is Lee, but there is no L in the Korean pronunciation.
Huh.
It's just E. Ree.
Well, that's with the R then.
This is random, but I forgot to mention it earlier. In the getting hit part, there was one time my mom got really mad at me and tried to throw a shoe, and then she missed and hit my brother.
So she you can cash that in later.
That's pretty light compared to the stuff I used to get hit with. I mean, having a shoe thrown at you, that's nothing. But there's a lot of things that I could relate to, and there's some things that I didn't relate to. It just depends on how you were raised and how your parents were. But so leave in the comments what things you were able to relate to as growing up Asian or just growing up whatever. You still might be able to relate. Hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll talk to you later.